Okay, Assalamualaikum. So this is video 2 on post-positivist theory. Okay, so in the last video, we stopped at discussing on two-step flow. Alright, by now you should already know what we mean by positivist theory. Especially now that you have learned about critical cultural theory, you can see the differences and you can compare and you can see the distinction between two theories, okay? So post-positivist highlights the need for scientific explanation and evidence when theorizing about a particular relationship. Okay, so we've discussed about two-step flow. So today we're going to talk about another example of a positivist theory, which is the attitude change theory. Right, so let's look at our slides. Okay, so attitude change. Now, you know, we always hear of the connection, or some people call it accusation against the media, that the media is too powerful. Okay, so mass society theories, critical cultural theory says, you know, media, the influence is very direct, okay, can make and change a particular society and their culture. But according to positivist theory, okay, it's not that easy to change a person's attitude. Okay, because okay, attitude change can only occur when subjects or people receive new information from other people or media through direct experience with the object. Okay, and this forces the subjects to behave in a way that they used to. It says here, okay, that in order to really change a person's attitude, that person has to experience it. Okay, not only view, not only watch it. Okay, why? Now, you will notice, okay, that when we discuss positivist theories, usually the theory is broken down into different categories and different components, or even you can consider it different variables. Okay, because remember, when we talk about positivist theory, it tries to be very empirical and evidence-based. And also, it is trying to provide a very scientific method. Okay, that means it breaks down into these different categories or different variables so that when someone uses the theory, they can carefully use or explain according particular specific categories. Okay, this means, okay, that when you want to study, okay, you say, I want to look at attitude change. Then you can specify which change. We're going to talk about their cognitive consistency or cognitive dissonance. It really just means that these theories are more systematic in comparison to critical cultural or normative theories that are very grand and general. They give general assumptions. They don't really tell us how to actually study and measure. So that's why positivist theories are usually very specific and systematic. That's why you will see, like we've already discussed, two-step flow and here attitude change theory, that they always have different components that build to the bigger theory. But actually, each of these components are a theory on its own. Okay. For example, when they talk about attitude change, you cannot just say there's a change in attitude. You have to explain why and how exactly through the step-by-step process. So in this theory, it says, okay, when you want to claim that it's change, you must understand, okay, that humans, okay, have what they call, another theory called cognitive consistency. Okay, it's not like you say something and I will directly or easily be influenced. So cognitive consistency says that the idea people consciously and unconsciously work to preserve their existing views. Okay, people generally would like to stay consistent. They already have certain beliefs and certain views that are guided by many things. Their culture, their religion, okay, their political or societal beliefs, okay, it's up to them. But they already have their own uniquely held views. So whenever there's new information or new idea, it will not easily be accepted because people would like to stay consistent. It's easier that way, all right? They don't change their attitude easily. Okay? Because when there are new ideas, sometimes it's quite stressful for the audiences or for the people in general because it can create cognitive dissonance. What is cognitive dissonance? Okay, something is like that is confusing you, okay, making you feel very overwhelmed, okay, or even apprehensive. So cognitive dissonance happens when information that is inconsistent, okay, or in opposition with a person's already held attitudes creates psychological discomfort or dissonance. Okay, you just feel very uncomfortable, all right? And this happens if you are watching certain programs, or you listen to a certain sermons, okay, speeches, and if that person talks about issues or something that is not familiar to you, or something that is against your religion, for example, you will feel uncomfortable. It does not mean that when you listen to something that is in opposition, that you would definitely just easily change your attitude. Okay? Why? Why is this cognitive consistency and cognitive dissonance? Because, okay, this theory argues that people go through selective processes. We select, okay, what we want to accept, what we want to see, okay, what we want to believe. Okay? So these selective processes are exposures, okay, retention and perception, psychological processes designed to reduce dissonance. Okay, so in psychology, okay, remember when we talk about theories, especially positivist theories, okay, we are under social science, okay, human science. So we share theories with other disciplines, such as sociology and psychology. So cognitive dissonance is obviously a psychology theory, but it can be used to explain how people respond to media messages. Okay, so when a media message is in opposition with a person's strongly held belief, it will create some kind of dissonance. Okay, so for a very pious Muslim man who watches a very what we call it sexy movie, it can make him feel a little or a lot uncomfortable. Okay, a little or very uncomfortable. That's a better sentence. All right. So why? Okay. So to control this feeling of overwhelm or this discomfort, okay, people will always go through what we call as a selective process. Okay. So this selective process, it includes selective exposure. The idea that people tend to expose themselves to messages that are consistent with their pre-existing attitudes and beliefs. Okay, so here, for the pious Muslim man, okay, he will not easily subscribe to Netflix or be clicking on movies that he knows would be quite dangerous to his iman. Okay, so he selects what he is exposed to. Okay, and then, okay, he would choose things that are similar to his already held attitudes and beliefs. Okay, so that means if you're watching naughty things on Netflix, you are naturally naughty. Okay, it's not Netflix that's changing your attitude. You are naughty. Okay, so this goes to any one of you out there. Okay, and then, okay, there is selective retention. The idea that people tend to remember the best and longest those messages that are most meaningful to them. Okay, that means we discriminate the content that we get from the media. Okay, we tend to focus on things that we like, that what we believe in. Okay, so all right, even if there is something that is in opposition to what we already believe, okay, we will alter the meaning of the messages so they become consistent with pre-existing attitudes and beliefs. Okay, so okay, if there's something that is not in line with our belief, we will try to alter the message. Okay, that means, okay, this whole idea will not be taken in full. Okay, I will only accept what is acceptable in my religion. Okay, for the Muslim, the pious Muslim girls and boys that are watching American, what we call it, sitcoms, for example. Okay, and you see a lot of very rather racy content. Okay, or the ideas. Okay, you know how it is. Okay, with American TV programs, everyone is sleeping with everybody in a particular series. Okay, so you will not accept those ideas. Okay, but you will only like to watch the basic storyline. Can you get what I'm saying? So it means we are selective, that humans are not easily susceptible to accept new messages. Okay? So you can see that this theory espouses the belief that media effects is very minimal. It's not easy to change a person's attitude. Okay, why? Because a person, okay, they will have cognitive consistency. and they do not like to be in a state of dissonance. And they like to maintain their already held beliefs through selective exposure, retention, and perception. Okay, so then what's the purpose of this theory? So this theory tells us, okay, that attitude change is not easy, but it also tells us why it is not easy. So for a media company or a public relation company that wants to change consumer or audience attitude, they must work with this. They must identify, okay, what are these particular groups of people existing beliefs, what are their existing beliefs, and they have to very smartly, wisely, and creatively, okay, compose messages that do not directly affect their beliefs. That means all the messages must be subtle. That if you want to change a person's attitude, you cannot do it hardcore. Okay, it has to be in a particular softer approach. Okay, so far can understand, right? Okay. So for example here, okay, they talk about, okay, drug users in the US. Okay, you can read this in your own slides. Okay, maybe it would be too small to read in this video. Okay, and this relates again to what is currently going on in America or the world for that matter, the issue of racism. Okay, why is it that people remain racist? Okay, even though they know, okay, that it is not ethically right. Okay, so here they ask about these cases, okay. What do Charles Stewart, Susan Smith, Bonnie Sweeten, Ashley Todd, and Robert Ralston have in common? So all of these people were white criminals, okay, but they were white, okay. So when they did the crimes, okay, they, what we call it, when they were reprimanded, okay, they blamed the crime on another black person, okay, and another black image, okay. And when they do that, their claims were easily believed by the police and by the community, okay. So it is just saying here that when a white person does a crime, it is hard for people to believe it to be true. And it's so easy for people to believe for that an African American or a black man to be the criminal or to commit the crime. Okay, so we already have this pre-existing idea. Okay, we already have that cognitive consistency, not only to the Americans, but most people around the world, because we've already had this view, okay, that the black person, okay, usually are the criminals. Okay, we have this racial biasness, okay, or basically it's racism. Okay, so we already have that idea of consistency. Okay, and if we were to tell these white people, you know, that actually, all right, in America, especially with regard to drug, there are more white people, okay, involved in drug cases than any other racial group. Okay, so it says here that 9% of white teens have serious drug problems, compared to 7.7% of Hispanic and only 5% of American teens. Okay, so it is actually the blacks are much more less likely than whites, okay, to be involved in drugs. But okay, despite these statistics, in real life, okay, a black teen has much more probability of being arrested by police because of drug issues. That means, okay, our beliefs, our cognitive consistency beliefs, okay, can influence our attitude. And this is in the case of the American society. Despite of the facts and the statistics, okay, they cannot consume the idea that white people have more drug problems than black people. So this creates some kind of what we call a cognitive dissonance. Okay? So why do we have this? Because of our selective processes, okay? To the white people, to the Americans, and even us, okay? We like to maintain our own beliefs through selective exposure. We will only, for example, read news, okay, that support our belief. We only read news about how the we read news about black people's crime. We don't really talk about the white people's crime. Okay, this is selective exposure. Okay, and then there is selective retention. Oh, when we read about black people and crimes, we tend to remember. Oh yes, the black people. I read it last time that they like to do drugs. Okay, but we kind of selectively ignore, okay, the news about white people. Okay, so when we do this, okay, through our selective exposure, selective retention, we create a selective perception. Okay, we select, oh, this is the thing that I adopt. That when it comes to drugs and crimes, it is a black people's issue. Okay, can you understand? So attitude change suggests that it is not really easy, okay, to overcome racism or any other kinds of attitude. Why? Because again, people like to hold on to their pre-existing beliefs. Okay? But the theory, because it has broken up all these categories, telling us about selective exposures and cognitive dissonance, it also tells us why. And it can give us suggestion on how to work on it. So it means here, through attitude change theory, to change the ideas about racism, okay, it's not really about trying to force, okay, news into people or force facts into people, but carefully and slowly, okay, change their, what we call it, cognitive consistency. That means we must, because people are already selective. So you must work within that selection, all right? If they already have belief, for example, okay, black people are the criminals, okay, you must work within that idea, but not truly change it, okay? I think that statement was quite confusing. So it just really means, okay, that to change attitude according to this theory is not really via straight, what we call it, forced change, because people would like to hold on to their pre-existing beliefs. So there must be a way of trying to make people to work around it, okay? So what are the strengths of attitude change theory? Okay, it pays deep attention to the process. Okay, and this is post-positivist. Okay, they don't tell you, okay, there's change. No, they tell you, they explain to you the detailed process. Okay, and this can be seen through all those selective processes we already discussed. Okay, and it provides insights into influence of individual differences and group affiliations in shaping media influence. Okay. That means it says, okay, that the influence, okay, of media is really defined on many other things, okay, and it's differentiated from one person to another person. Okay, that one person can be influenced this way, another person another way. So that's why it says minimal effects, okay? And attention to selective processes helps clarify how individuals process information. So the positive thing to this is that it tells us how individuals process information. And if we want to change people's perception, people's attitude, we work on that particular processes, okay? But the weakness, okay, is that the variables overestimates their power and underestimates medias. Okay, so we talk about the selective process, selective exposure. Okay, those who take this theory, they trust those processes too much, okay, without really understanding that media can be very powerful too, okay, because information in the media, okay, not entirely direct. Some of it have subtle, okay, and are symbolic, okay. So those things that we discussed just now, okay, to change a person's attitude is hard if we were to measure media influence as direct, as very, what we call it, literal, okay, only through media content, media images. But sometimes media effects is not really just about attitude change, okay? The change can be more subtle, okay? For example, all right, when we watch a movie that talks about LGBTs, okay, that talks about homosexualities, okay, especially among Muslims, all right, this is haram to us, okay? When we watch it, of course, there will be some kind of cognitive consistency. You watch a movie that portrays homosexual relationship, you would know, oh, this is not for me. So I'm going to watch it, all right? But I'm not going to turn into a homosexual, okay? Because it's not easy that attitude change, because it will create some kind of dissonance. So this is wrong. Okay, even no matter how open you are or liberal you are, but if you are a Muslim and you learn about Islam's and its teachings, then you know it's just not acceptable. So it will create some kind of discomfort, and you will be selective. Okay, I will watch this film. Okay, but whenever they talk about or they show homosexual relationship, I will not watch it, or I will not, you know, internalize it. Okay, but it doesn't mean that when you don't change your attitude, that there's no effects or influence. Okay, you, after watching a particular homosexual scenes or a homosexual film, okay, you may not become a homosexual, but there are other effects that can occur. For example, okay, you may be desensitized. Your attitude may not be changed 100%, but your values can be what we call it affected. What do we mean by desensitized? It means that you watch a homosexual scene once, you become very, you feel discomfort. But when you watch it many times, you become desensitized. That means it's, oh, just another homosexual scene. Okay, it's no longer sensitive, right? It does no longer create a discomfort. So while you have not become a homosexual, or you do not adopt the lifestyle, or you may not agree, but you have become desensitized. That means it has become something that's normal. You know, that when you see in real life, okay, when you go out shopping at a mall and you see a homosexual couple, that you don't feel anything anymore. You don't feel that it's haram, you don't feel angry, you don't feel anything, because you've seen it many times before. Can you understand? So this concept of desensitization, for example, is not, okay, explained in this theory, because this theory discusses strict attitude change. Okay? So there are two other examples of post-positivist theory, okay, especially in relation to media effects, okay? So one theory is called information flow theory, okay? It's similar to two-step flow, okay? It's just that in two-step flow, they say that information does not go direct, it comes into steps via opinion leader to the opinion follower, okay? But, okay, with regard to information flow theory, okay, it says that information moves from media to audiences to have specific intended effects, okay? That means, all right, if you remember we studied before, it talks about transmissional views, okay, that when a producer of the media create a content, and if it's news, the main purpose of the news is to inform, right? And this is what will be transmitted to the audiences, okay? It's a very simple theory, okay? So, how audiences make sense of the content of the particular news depends on how the news is being, what we call it, designed, all right? So it depends on the information, the flow of the news or the media content, okay? And media effects here also is dependent on the source-dominated theory, okay? Theory that examines the communication process from the point of view of some elite message source, yeah? So to understand how media content is received by a particular person or a particular community, we look at who designed the content, okay? If the content is designed by the West and by the Americans, you can expect that there will be some kind of cultural influence to the non-Westerners, okay? So it depends on how the information is being designed, and it also depends on who created or came up or produced the media content. But you must understand this is post-positivist, okay? Although they say to look at the media effects, we look at who created the effects, it stops there. It's not like critical cultural theory where they will argue and they will blame and they will ask to do some change. Here, it will just explain. Because the function of post-positivism is to be objective, okay? Only explain the relationship that it knows about. So here it's going to explain, oh, for example, okay, news that are coming Okay, global news are coming mostly from global news agencies. And these are the news agencies. Okay, so the message is going to be biased towards those agencies' political affiliations, probably American bias or Western bias. But it will stop there. Can you understand? All right, they don't really say that there needs to be change. It's just explaining what is going on. Okay, it's just explaining, you know, these news are American biased because they're coming from American news agencies. That's the reason why it's biased. That's it. We're going to explain why it's biased. That's all. All right, if you don't agree, then don't read the news. Okay, what I'm saying? Okay, so this is the idea of post-positivism. It's very objective. Okay. So what are the strengths of information flow theory? Okay, it examines processes of mass communication in real world. Okay, it provides theoretical basis of successful public information campaigns. Okay, here it provides a way or tells us how to create successful campaigns. How to create successful campaign? It tells here, look at the source. Okay, and look at how you define, how you design the message. Okay, so you can see here also that positivist theories are very functional. Okay, it talks about what you can do, what is the result. Okay, but what is the weakness? Okay, it's too simple, it's too linear, source dominated, very simple, right? It assumes, okay, that people are apathetic and populace ignorant, that we just accept message. It's not as easy, okay, to say that your message is going to work with me because you use a very carefully designed process, okay? Because individuals have different way of accepting new ideas, okay? It fails to consider utility, the use or value of information for receivers, okay? We just say, okay, for you to give the information to the people, you look at the flow, you look at the source. But they don't care what happens to the users, okay? And it is too accepting of the status quo. This is a criticism against all post-positivist theory, okay? So another very popular positivist idea, okay, is functionalism. So functionalism is a big theory, okay, that assumes society can be usefully viewed as a system in balance. That is, the society consists of complex sets of interrelated activities, each of which supports the others. So here it says, you know, the media, yes, it gives effects, but this is its job, it is its function. Okay, so if you think, okay, that the media gives you information, then that is the job of the media. So it is value neutral. That means it doesn't question. Okay, you like to watch Kardashian and it gives you entertainment, then okay, no problem. Because this is entertainment for you. So it's the function of the media to give you entertainment. It doesn't matter if the entertainment is ethical or not, because you chose to watch the Kardashian and you are entertained by it. Okay? So it's the function of the media to give us manifest function. Okay? Intended and observed consequences of media use. Okay, for example, when you watch comedy, you happy, you laugh. Okay, that's the function, manifest, can see. Or when you watch a sad movie, you cry. Okay, or when you watch a news, okay, and they ask for help for you to donate, and then you donate. This is manifest function because, okay, you respond in a way that was intended. Okay, comedies, they write comedies, okay, for you to laugh, to make you happy. Okay, so if you are happy, so that they've reached their function. Okay, but media also have latent functions, which are the unintended and less easily observed consequences of media use. This could be, for example, cultural. Okay, when you watch an entertainment program, okay, it may make you be more lazy, for example. Okay, or it may make you be more influenced to other ideas that are being brought upon by that particular program you are watching. So if this is happening, okay, maybe this is not the intention of the TV producer or the film producer. They don't intend for you to be lazy when you watch comedies, okay? They intend for you to be entertained. But if you become lazy, you sit there, okay, become couch potatoes, okay, binge watching for 3 days straight, that is a latent function that was not intended. But is it the function of the media? Yes, okay, because the media has served this function to make you happy sitting on your sofa all day long. Okay, so is it negative or positive? That's not an issue, and that's not the fault of the media. It's really up to you, because you use this media for a particular function. And if that function means you are being lazy, then that is it. Okay? But of course, you cannot deny that sometimes media can create dysfunction, or some call it narcotizing. You know, narcotic is a drug dysfunction. Okay? For example, dysfunction is instead of you get what the news or the TV media's intentions, okay, you get the opposite. Okay, for example, okay, you always get news about, you know, the sufferings, okay, the sufferings in Palestine, the suffering in Yemen, okay. So the function of the news is to inform you. The function of the news is to make you care. But sometimes what happens is the opposite, because you've been watching this news all the time. Every year you see about Palestine. Every day somebody is collecting donations. So what happens is you become desensitized. All right, you become apathetic. Instead of being sad, instead of being sorry, okay, or sympathetic, you just have no more feelings. Okay, why? Because you no longer feel anything. You've seen it all the time. Okay, so instead of doing action, okay, you feel, oh, it's okay, I know about it. Substituting knowing about the issue for action on it. No need to action. No need to help the Palestinians. Okay, we just pray for them on our couch. Okay. And another example of a functional theory is the mass entertainment theory. Theory asserting that television and other mass media, because they relax, oops, what happens? Okay. Oh, because that was the last slide, all right? Okay. Because the theory asserts that television and other mass media, because they relax or otherwise entertain average people, perform a vital function. This is one thing, all right? Another way, post-positivism is going against criticism against media, okay? And it says that media gives effects, okay? And if you say that all media does is entertain, then it's very good, because it is a vital function, okay? That people need entertainment, all right? And if news today are more entertaining than informative, it's okay. You know, you can see in the newspapers or in television, there are big sections, okay, dedicated to gossips, for example, okay? So according to this theory, it's okay. At least it's making people read news, okay? It's okay because it helps people go on with their daily life, as long as the media or the news meets its function, okay? And if its function is to entertain, then let it be. Don't question, all right? Don't criticize, okay? So the strength of this theory is that it positions media and their influence in a larger social system, okay, like the mass entertainment theory. Okay, the function of the media is to entertain. Okay, if they're going to entertain, what about educate? Okay, the teachers can do the education, because media is not one thing. Media is part of a system. Right? So you can't blame everything on the media. Okay. And it offers balanced view of media's role in society. Like I said just now, okay, they don't say that media is part of a bigger system. It's based on guides. It is based on and guides empirical research, yeah, because it's positivist, okay, like we mentioned just now. When we discuss, for example, the attitude change theory, they provide you specific guides, okay, to look at how attitude change. Weakness, like a typical weakness of a positivist theory, it is accepting of status quo. Why do we say that it is accepting of status quo? Because it doesn't question. All right, like the mass entertainment theory says, okay, too much entertainment, no problem, still good. Why? Makes you happy. Okay, and it is still your choice. Okay, so don't be talking about status quo. It's not like the rich people or the Americans forced you to watch it. Okay, it asserts that these functions are balanced by functions. Okay, just now we talked about dysfunction, right? And this theory argues, yala, sometimes you have functions, sometimes you have dysfunction, you know, they balance out. But actually, okay, the critical theories would see this as a weakness because a dysfunction is still a dysfunction. That means it would give a bad effect. You cannot say that because there are other good functions that you can ignore the dysfunction. Okay? And then it asserts that negative latent functions are bad, we've already discussed this, rarely permits definitive conclusions about media's role in society. Okay? There's no definitive role or conclusion in positivists in general because they say that influence is very minimal. Okay, like in functionalism, it says, oh yes, media has function, but media is not strong enough to change attitudes. Okay, so it doesn't have a particular position. Okay, it's trying hard to be objective. Okay, but by being objective, they are compromising. Okay, a particular position. That means, what is it you are trying to say? Okay, all right. I think I'm going to stop here for today. Okay, I think it's very, post-positivist theory is very direct. Okay, it tries to explain a particular media and communication process objectively using scientific methods, okay, without being critical, okay, or being biased toward a particular groups or society. But because of this also, post-positivist theory is criticized for being or trying to maintain status quo because they don't question anything. They just do the research to find the result. Okay, that is it. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.